Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us on the Thursday before a long holiday weekend. Glad we have a quorum. Here's Quasi. Welcome, Quasi. We're kicking off a new year for the Finance Committee, fiscal year 25. Excited to be serving with all of you. Before we jump into our agenda, I thought we could spend a moment to introduce our new members. We have 3 new members total. Shri said he may be joining us in a little bit. But I'll introduce first Pat Gaia. Welcome, Pat.
Thank you.
Would you like to take a minute and tell us about yourself, what brings you to the Finance Committee?
Sure. Posse of people in town thought that I should raise my hand. I thought the interest in me was because of my financial background. I spent about 40 years in the financial services industry, sell-side investment banking, buy-side asset management. But I think it's because I run a very small, and I stress very small, independent college counseling business. So I touch a lot of Concord families. And so I think that's where the interest is. And I have an interest, of course, in the school.
Great. Welcome, Pat.
Thank you.
Excited to serve with you. And then Paul Rodriguez. Welcome, Paul.
Hi. So I live in West Concord, lived there since 2022. Before then, my family lived in Poland. And before then, I was in the Coast Guard, which I retired from, doing financial management. I have a financial management company that I run right now, small business, like hire a CFO type of thing. And I thought this would be fun. I've been on a couple of boards, private boards in the past, and I have a level of civic involvement from my family from when I was very little. So, you know, it's a good time to raise my hand. So here I am.
Welcome, Paul. Likewise, excited to serve with you. Like I said, we have a third new member, Shri Tupul, who's said he's running a few minutes late. He may join us later. We'll introduce him if he's able to join. Next item on the agenda, public comment. We have no visitors here in the room with us tonight. Anybody online wish to offer public comment?
There's no hands.
Okay. Moving right along. Town meeting debrief with the moderator. Now we're way ahead of schedule because we didn't have any public comment. Is Carmen online and available to jump in?
Here's Carmen right there.
Carmen is right here.
Welcome.
Greetings, everybody. So congratulations to the Finance Committee for the prodigious and successful amount of work that you did in the 2024 annual town meeting cycle. There was so much ground covered, and you wrote a great Finance Committee report. And I will tell you that in the feedback that we've gotten for the town meeting survey, there were many comments in the comments section about the importance of the Finance Committee viewpoints to folks who went to town meeting and the benefit that people felt from listening to the Finance Committee's views on things. So that's all great. It means you're doing your job. So thank you very much. One thing that you did differently last year was to combine the school and the town pre-meeting hearings, and that is combine the articles on the warrant that dealt with the school budget and the town budget in a single night, as opposed to separating those into different nights, which had been the pattern previously. There were real benefits to that, I think, in allowing both the Finance Committee and the public and the budget units to consider the whole budget that the town needed to appropriate, all in a single bite, all in looking at a single pie chart. But it did mean a very long night for the Finance Committee as well as the participants in that meeting. So it's up to you whether you continue that. I see real benefits to doing so, but it doesn't come without a cost. It makes for a tough meeting. I'd also say that you had some schedule shifts last year on the hearings, and I think it's never ideal for us to change dates once they've been put in the town meeting calendar and placed on the website. Sometimes it's unavoidable, and it's hard to schedule all these moving pieces for the annual town meeting cycle months and months in advance without needing to change some of them. But I would say that it's better not to if you can avoid it. And so the takeaways there, I guess, are that the Finance Committee might want to really think about participating in the Select Board's deliberations on the formation of the town meeting calendar for 2025 to make sure that you're comfortable with what those hearing schedules look like, what the spacing is of them, the nights of the week they are, and so on. Staff certainly will check in with the chair of the Finance Committee to talk about that, but it's important to think through what's the cadence of that going to be for the committee. Is it going to be workable in terms of workload, or do you want to space things out differently? I mentioned the Finance Committee report. I thought it was a great report in terms of detail. I thought that the presentation that the Finance Committee gave to the town at town meeting at the beginning was meaningful for residents and appreciated. Some of the changes that the Finance Committee has made to the format of the Finance Committee report, there are pluses and minuses to those changes, and specifically I would mention that, in years past there was a table at the front of the Finance Committee report that had both the Finance Committee and the Select Board's recommendations on all of the articles in a single table, and that was really easy for voters who maybe wanted to size up what does everybody think on a particular, two of the most important committees on many articles in terms of your recommendations. And I understand the reason why the Finance Committee is going to a different format, because you included the reasoning for your recommendations on the articles, which is on balance a really positive thing. So that's just a thing to think about. And this year you took the warrant out. In prior years we have, and I realized actually in reviewing town meeting traditions and procedures, which is that green booklet we have produced for years and distributed at town meeting, even that booklet says that the Finance Committee report will have the warrant in it, and of course it did not this year. And I understand the redundancy, and I understand the cost implications of creating republishing the warrant. But since we moved so many articles as printed in the warrant, it's just a lot of moving pieces for people to have their Finance Committee report and their warrant in order to follow along with the proceedings. We thought we'd make a big step toward making that easier for people by having QR codes to both the Finance Committee report and the warrant, so that folks could just download those on their smart devices at the meeting. And of course, we had no Wi-Fi at town meeting this year, so that didn't work out so well. And let's see. I think that's about it. I'm going to try and do a better job this year with making sure that everybody understands what they need to do in terms of drafting motions in advance of town meeting. I think we will return to having people's slide presentations aired for the first time at the pre-town meeting hearings, and that those presentations will include the motion, and that will get us a little further ahead in the production curve, and make things a little easier for everyone as we are closing in on town meeting. So I thought that in general, The town meeting went well this year. Important information was presented. It was found worthwhile by the voters. The Finance Committee report was timely produced and valuable to the voters. And the hearings were important. One thing I can tell you is that there is some thinking about whether to change the format and purpose of the town meeting overview meeting. We used to call it the coordination. We call it the preview meeting now, the town meeting preview meeting in December. I think there's been a general feeling that that meeting hasn't been very useful in terms of its content, and that it might be a better purpose for that meeting if we continue to hold it, for there to be a little primer on everybody's obligations and the timetable for those obligations in getting us all ready for town meeting in terms of motions and PowerPoints and hearings and in general how we're doing things. But I think that we'd love to have the Finance Committee weigh in on that. The Select Board will ultimately make that decision, but the Finance Committee has been part of that meeting as well, and we certainly welcome your thoughts about that. So, good job done by all. Thank you very much. And I am delighted to answer any questions and also to hear any comments that you have for me on how the process went and how it might have been better.
Questions or comments for the moderator? Go around the room, starting with Kathy.
I'm good too.
I just want to say, Carmen, you do that so well of managing the public. I would like to just take notes on how well you can keep everything in line and manage like a variety of viewpoints and keep the meeting going. So it was cool to watch.
Thank you for the kind words.
You shrink them.
Yeah, I mean, I think town meeting's an amazing thing that happens. Carmen, the one comment I guess I would have is, and correct me if I'm mistaken here, but it seemed a little potentially inappropriate that Henry Dane stood up and used that podium to espouse his personal opinions, which kind of reflected almost the Select Board when he was making those changes. And then the Select Board had their ad hoc meeting on the side, unless I'm interpreting that totally incorrectly, which I'm known to do often. It just seemed he was using a position that he shouldn't have been using to espouse, again, a personal opinion, and I thought that probably should have been squashed pretty early on. But would love comments on that.
Yeah, so I was not presiding over those articles because I had recused myself to avoid any kind of appearance of potential conflict between the article that I had presented to town meeting on creation of a town meeting study committee and the citizen petition articles that wanted to take immediate actions rather than study them, which arguably could have been seen to be in conflict with the study committee. So I wasn't in charge of that exercise. I will say that that experience is kind of a useful, it's a useful lesson for every board and committee on how you react in real time to developments at town meeting, because the open meeting law actually does not apply at town meeting, so you can discuss anything you want as a committee and have a motion, take a vote, and take an action during town meeting without having posted an agenda. And you're doing it in public because you're visible to everybody at town meeting, but it isn't, it isn't the same as a regularly posted meeting. But that's totally acceptable because it's understood by the legislature that town meeting is a dynamic system and boards and committees may have to react and make decisions in real time on amendments or motions. And so it certainly was open to the select board to just put their heads together, discuss the situation that they were facing, make a decision, and send a spokesman. And ultimately, they did do that when Henry was challenged on speaking, so that they all took a position together, and that happened at the beginning. So it doesn't happen at every meeting, so it can be unfamiliar territory for boards and committees. But that's a lesson for the Finance Committee, too. You could get faced with some kind of curveball that you weren't expecting at town meeting, and then you can just put your heads together. And as a matter of fact, you did. On the Community Preservation Act, you all put your heads together and had a conversation about what you were going to do and made a decision. So, but thank you for that comment, and that's an important reminder for me to give boards and committees before town meeting.
Dee.
Next, Dee here. Carmen, I just want to thank you for your service.
Thank you, Dee, and thank you for yours.
Thanks, Dee. Colin.
It's not an easy thing to do what you're doing, and we all appreciate that. I want to thank you also for allowing us the certain time to make the statement on that third day on the Community Preservation Committee. You handled that very gracefully, and now we know how to do that sort of thing if we need to make a statement about taking a position that's contrary to what everybody else was expecting. So thank you for working with me on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always happy to do it.
Lindsay. Lindsay's good. Carmen, I'll just thank you for taking the time to meet with us tonight to debrief a little bit. Appreciate it. And I know no rest for the weary. I'll ask as we think about our schedule for the upcoming year, have you nailed down a date for town meeting 2025?
So that decision is the select boards as opposed to mine. I can tell you that my prediction is that it's going to be the first week of June. And that is because I know there has been a strong feeling that we should avoid holding annual town meeting during April because of the Concord 250th events, and we're going to be beside ourselves with all kinds of things to do and all kinds of people in town during April. And it turns out that for CCHS, the month of May is so packed with graduation and musicals and so forth that giving us the building for 3 days, and it's not the building, but it's the gymnasium and the auditorium and the cafeteria. They just couldn't see a good week during May for us to do that, but they can manage dealing with us the first week of June, and we looked also at the last week of April. That's a difficult time because everyone is going to feel pretty spent. I think town staff in particular will feel pretty spent after the 50th events, and that also was put on the heels of April vacation. And there's always a little bit of torture with getting coordination worked out with the school department and the school committee when they've all been on vacation for the week immediately preceding town meeting. So that's not ideal either. March is a consideration. I think that's way too early for the budget units, and I think that there will be real resistance to doing it that soon. And I can say that the town meeting study committee would really not prefer to have their report ready in March. They'd rather have the extra time. They were hoping for May, and June will be just fine for them. So that's what I think is going to happen, first week of June.
Okay. Peggy on the phone. Any feedback or questions for the moderator before we move on?
Carmen, I just want to thank you for such a graceful and such an excellent job. Thank you.
Thanks for being on the Finance Committee, and thank you for the 50 roles we've had before that.
Okay, well, thanks again, Carmen. I think we can hold it there.
Okay, great. Thank you all. Thanks for the opportunity to talk with you tonight.
Bye, Carmen.
Bye now. Okay, before we dive back into our agenda, I wanted to welcome Shri, the third of our 3 new members. Welcome, Shri.
Thank you.
What brings you to the Finance Committee?
That's a good question. No, actually, I'm always interested in the finance piece of it. I'm an engineer by training. I have a double master's in materials and chemicals, and also an MBA in finance and strategy. But just used it within my organization, never used it outside. And I'm always fascinated with public finance, and especially in city and state, how it works, and where do all the taxes we pay, how does it divide up, how do you collect those? So these are all fascinates me, and being a little bit more free now because I'm between jobs, and I'm thinking of slowing down and just doing consulting on the side. So I said, why not do some service and also contribute and learn at the same time? So I'm here, whatever way I'll be utilized, or I can provide help to this, and I'm fortunate to be part of this organization, especially some of you I've met have a lot of experience, so I can learn from those experiences. So that's, and I live down the street in Lang Street, which is just a block away or 2 blocks away basically, so it's convenient. So yeah, thanks for having me here, and I'm really excited to be part of this organization and our committee and contribute whatever way I can.
Okay, welcome.
Yeah.
Excited to serve with you. Okay, back to our agenda. I thought we could spend some time just regrounding ourselves, or for the new members, introducing you to what Finance Committees, what our mission and responsibilities are as a committee, and then spend some time on what our roles and responsibilities are as members, as offices, and as liaisons. I prepared some slides to facilitate the discussion. I'll pull those up. Starting with Finance Committee mission and responsibilities. And I went to our website, which has been significantly spruced up in the last year, thanks to Dee and the staff, to refresh myself on what it is we're all about and what our key responsibilities are. Our mission is short and sweet. The Finance Committee is the principal financial advisor to town meeting. It is a deliberative rather than decision-making body, and our responsibilities are spelled out in state law and in town bylaws. We have 5 big responsibilities. First, we establish budget guidelines. And we're going to spend a lot of time on those. We're going to pick that back up starting next month, believe it or not, in prep for fiscal year 25. Second, we conduct public hearings and make recommendations on warrant articles that address financial matters in town, or that are relevant to financial matters in town. Third, we produce an annual report ahead of town meeting. Fourth, we make 5-year projections on tax burden. And fifth, we manage the town's appropriated reserve fund. Any questions or discussion on our role and responsibilities in town?
I have one observation.
Alan.
At the town meeting, Parshar Patel, our former chair, had to answer questions about the rates that the light plant was offering. Now, that seemed to me a little strange, but I understand that it has a financial impact, and people look to us to talk about financial things, even if they're not within the budget guidelines that we're controlling. So it means we kind of have to be aware of what's going on with what's happening with the enterprise funds, as well as anything else dealing with money, apparently, because that's what town meeting is expecting us to know about.
It's true. I mean, I'm sure you're all in the same boat. I get questions from neighbors all the time. You're on the Finance Committee. Why are my taxes so high? Or, why did I get this bill or that bill? And I say, I don't know. I'm in the same boat. So people look to us for input on all sorts of issues related to finances, some of which aren't necessarily relevant to our mission and responsibilities.
Speaking of the electric rates, I notice that we don't have the light plant. I noticed that we don't have the light plant on our list. Should we be following the light plant?
On the liaison list?
Yeah. Is it on
Yeah,
there?
we could talk about that. Let's table that until we get to it. We're going to spend
great.
some time on the liaison list. But in terms of mission and responsibilities, I hope that's a helpful summary.
So, Eric, so we're not expected to know all the numbers, though. I mean, going back to your point, we just say that that's not part of the Finance Committee responsibility. Is that correct?
I think that's fair. You could say it's not part of our responsibility. You could certainly offer your personal opinion. I think it's important to note it's not the official position of the Finance Committee because it's not relevant to what we do.
And I think when you get that kind of question, it's advisable to have the people who are responsible dragged into that particular question. It's like, oh, but I see the Sven Weber, the chair of the Public Works Commission, he can come talk about that stormwater fee, answer that question. So it's more than just not our job. It's not really our job, but here's someone who can answer your question. It's tying it in. Does that make sense?
No.
Are you suggesting, Carlin, that something like this slide be the opening of the town meeting to make sure that people understand what our role is?
What do you think, Eric?
Or it could go in the report.
Yeah, it might be helpful to put it in the report as a helpful reminder to folks. That's a great idea.
Yeah, okay.
I had a question, on the liaison we talked about. Where does, on these pillars, where does it fit into?
Great question. And again, we're going to get to that. Liaison assignments, that's not a formal responsibility of the Finance Committee laid out in our charge and state law and local law. But it's become an important part of how we administer our responsibilities, part of our operations.
It allows us to be more informed on the warrant articles themselves, and we can, if necessary, bring those committees in to speak with the liaison can identify an issue that maybe the Finance Committee needs to know more about and invite them in to speak to the whole committee, things like that.
And I think it's all of it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
annual report, we need to know what's going on with some of the other committees.
Okay. Let's move on to member roles and responsibilities. And this is organized as members, as offices, and as liaisons. And that's where we'll spend some time talking about those liaison assignments. First, as members, where do we come from? We're not elected, we're appointed by the town moderator to serve up to 2 3-year terms, and I added the moderator makes appointments when it happens that there's an unexpired term due to a vacancy. Expectations for the role. First, preparation for meetings. The expectation is you'll review agendas and meeting materials that go out in advance. That includes any draft meeting minutes that are included in your packet for review and approval. The minutes it's important stuff, serious business. So we always include those in the packets. I ask that you let me know or let whoever the chair is know in advance if you expect to be absent. That's good to know for planning purposes. It's also important because we have to have a quorum in order to take votes, and that's 8. We're a body of 15, so we need 8 present to take votes. Second expectation is participation. You'll attend and actively participate in our meetings. That includes public hearings leading up to town meeting and town meeting itself. You're expected to attend town meeting. 3, meeting etiquette. We're guided by Robert's rules for maintaining decorum, making motions and points of order, and avoiding interruptions. 4th, trainings. You're expected to complete required trainings, and that includes the ethics and conflict of interest training, open meeting law, and others as assigned. And then lastly, those liaison roles. You're expected to stay engaged with the board or committee for which you're assigned as our liaison. And we're going to get into more detail on that in 2 slides. Any questions or discussion? Okay. As offices, we elect 6 offices. We did this in March. We reorganized. I summarized what the primary responsibilities of each of our 6 offices are here. The chair chairs our meetings, prepares the agenda and materials for each meeting. That's with the staff, of course. Makes liaison assignments and other appointments as needed, and represents the Finance Committee at town meeting and other meetings like the chair's breakfast. The vice chair fulfills the chair's responsibilities in the chair's absence and assists the chair as needed. Our vice chair is Lois. She couldn't be here tonight. The clerk has a critical job, records the minutes of our meetings, and once approved, submits them for the public record to be posted and to become part of the public record. The clerk leads and records our roll call votes, and importantly, the clerk leads the development of our annual report, which is one of those key 5 responsibilities we talked about. Our clerk is Don. He couldn't make it tonight. He is served by Vice Clerk Cowan. The Vice Clerk's formal responsibilities are to fill in for the clerk and assist the clerk as needed. Guidelines Subcommittee Chair. The Subcommittee Chair leads the development of our guideline metrics, preliminary and final guideline figures, and chairs the meetings of our Guidelines Subcommittee. And the current chair is Lindsay. And we're going to kick off the guideline process again next month. The Guidelines Subcommittee Vice Chair fulfills the Subcommittee Chair's responsibilities in her absence and assists as needed. And the Vice Chair is Quasi. Any questions or discussion on offices? Okay. Liaison assignments. And we'll spend a little bit of time on this one. Last year, we reworked the liaison role, the way it's worded on the website. We spent quite a bit of time on it to try to get it right. I've reproduced that here just for quick reference. Our liaisons engage with other town boards and committees to assist the Finance Committee's understanding of current and emerging financial matters before the town, and when appropriate, share our perspective on matters of interest to the other boards and committees. Really important, if a liaison wishes to make remarks on those matters where the Finance Committee has not taken a formal position or has not yet taken a formal position, the liaison must preface such remarks by clearly stating they are not speaking for the committee. They're speaking as individuals. On the right-hand side, expectations for the role. First, you'll engage with your assigned board or committee by attending meetings when possible and/or reviewing meeting recordings when you can't attend, opening and maintaining a line of communication with the chair or the chair's designee, and monitoring key decisions and I'd say outputs of the board and committee. 2, in tandem with that, you'll report back to the Finance Committee on key updates that may be of relevance or interest. We'll include a liaison updates item on most agendas. And then 3, again, be mindful that in all communications with your assigned board or committee, you may not be speaking for the Finance Committee. We may not have taken a position as a committee on the topic. On the left-hand side, this is a list of the boards and committees for which we have traditionally designated liaisons, with a few additions for fiscal year '25. I'll call out the additions. Board of Assessors, the 250th Committee, the MCI Concord Advisory Board, and Warner's Pond Task Force. Before we talk about assignments themselves, does anybody have any other suggested additions for this year? Kathy, you mentioned the light plan. I think that's a good one. Any others?
And my other question would be, given the large spend for the water treatment, that's not under Public Works?
Public Works.
It is, okay.
Yeah, we're covered there. Good question. Anyone else? We have 1 million boards and committees in town. I don't think it makes sense to try to designate a liaison for all of them. But I do think it's important to stay plugged in where relevant, so we're trying to strike a balance here. But I think this is a good list. I took a crack based on the preferences that everybody shared in identifying liaisons for each of the committees. We don't have the light plant on there yet. We're still finalizing this and horse trading on who's going to take what, so this isn't fully baked yet. For the next meeting, I'll get you a fully baked list of liaison assignments. Now, there are 2 that we know we have vacancies for. Concord 250th and the newest addition to the list, the light plant. Is anybody interested in taking on Concord 250th?
You know, just a comment on that. I'm wondering if with the Concord 250, they have a lot of subcommittees and things. I'm just wondering if we could invite them in, maybe a couple of subcommittees at a time to come and talk with us, just to give us an update, rather than necessarily someone trying to run around to all of the different subcommittees and getting information.
I'd like to comment on that. Our experience has been that we have a lot of work to do, and we spend a lot of time in meeting. I think if we have already approved the spend, I don't know that we should be spending a lot of time following what they're doing, unless they're going to come to us for more money. I think we should be spending as much time as possible where we know we're going to have expenditures.
That's fine.
I mean, that's just...
I completely agree with that.
Completely.
Sorry, sorry, Dee. I mean, there's so many interesting things that are going on in the town, and...
Fine, I don't have,
Okay,
a
all right.
stake in this one at all.
So potentially we don't need a liaison at all, is your perspective?
Yeah.
Excuse me?
So you're thinking potentially no liaison at all?
For the Concord 250th?
Yeah.
You can probably get away with it because they've given us a budget.
Again, I'm just asking the question, is there any financial matter that's going to come before us about that
Only if they
committee?
need more money.
Yeah, they need more money.
Let me
So-
think about it. Let me think about it.
So maybe someone could just follow it.
Yeah. We'll think about it.
I think, I'm sorry, I don't put my little hand up. I think a liaison would be useful, but I totally agree that we don't want to get, in their underwear. We just want to know the total budget.
So Eric, what is the expectation, from the liaison? Is it going to every single meeting? Is it once a month and once a quarter? Because I'm in the economic vitality, and these guys meet at like 4:30, which makes it difficult for me to attend. Sometimes they meet at 8:30, so I can attend once in a while. But should I have somebody else with me when I can't attend? 2 questions, I guess.
Yeah, good question. I don't think it's critical to attend each and every meeting. I don't think that's realistic. Most of us have day jobs and families, and we're on the finance committee and everything else. I don't think that's a realistic expectation. That would be ideal if you could, but realistically, that ain't going to happen for most of us. I think maintaining a line of communication with the board or committee through the chair or the chair's designee, so you're getting, in as real time as possible, updates on what's happening. That could be an email exchange once a week or once a month. Something so when you're getting line of sight into issues that may be relevant or of interest to the finance committee, you're able to bring those to our meetings.
Yeah, Quasi, you can look at the recordings, and the good thing about looking at the recordings is you can skip ahead. You can kind of fast forward them and see if there's any financial matters up on the screen, and then stop and play. That's how especially I was doing all of the building committees, and there was like 3 of them. There was no way I could go to them all.
Do they do recording for all meetings?
Everything's on
For your
our
committee,
YouTube.
for your committee, yes. Mike Lawson is the chair. I was on the Economic Vitality Committee meeting that just met. I told him that we'd be assigning a FinCom person. He said, well, send him on over to me. So Mike Lawson, and if you need some help with getting the connection, I can help you with that.
Awesome.
So he's the chair for that. And that meeting is recorded. Not all the meetings are recorded, though, for all the committees. Some committees don't record the meetings.
Sri?
Yeah, so once the list is finalized, would you send these to the chairs? So how do the chairs know who the liaison? What's the process?
That's a good idea.
It'll be posted on the Finance Committee website.
Okay.
And that's a great idea.
Yeah.
We'll send it out to all the chairs. And I'd ask you, once we're settled on
Right.
assignments, I'd ask you to reach out to your
Yeah, once you
board's
send
chair
it,
and
we can sort of reach out, and so at least it becomes official at that point.
Right.
And you also attend that chair's breakfast, so that could be another place you could.
I was just going to say that.
a great
I was
idea.
just going to say that. So I sent a recap last week of the most recent
Yes.
monthly chairs breakfast. That is a fabulous opportunity to get it's an hour-long update on what every board and committee is up to in town, and you get coffee and breakfast in this room. It's open to everybody. It's not just the chairs of the boards and committees. So anybody can come. It's also now going to be broadcast on Zoom. You can join in via Zoom. And that's a great way to get a quick, at-a-glance update on what's happening across the board.
If I may, if you're having problems finding a recording for your committee, let me know, because I know the people who run the station, and I will twist their arms and say, hey, we need this for FinCom. Please get this meeting posted.
It's good to know. Yeah.
Okay?
Okay, so let me spend some more time on the list. If folks have strong feelings for or against the boards and committees they're being matched with, let me know. I'll do my best. Before we move on Zoom, I see, welcome, Greg. I see Greg's joined us. Greg and Peggy, anything to add?
No.
Okay. And actually, before we move on, any liaison updates that anybody wants to share? I know meetings have already gotten started. Some folks are attending meetings. Let's quickly go around the room. Kathy?
So the 2229 Main Street Advisory Task Force has 2 upcoming meetings. On June 4th at 7 p.m. here in the townhouse, Eric, you circulated that to the group. There will be a public forum on the progress of their study. So that should be full of information. But in my dealings with the committee, I told Paul, who's the chair, that I thought it would be very helpful for me if we could walk the land, because when they talk about certain features, I think many of you, he was here like, what, a month or 2 ago? When they talk about certain features, I can't picture them. So he has offered that any of us can go next Wednesday at noon. That's May 29th. He's also touring the facility with the Concord Bridge. So he just
Okay.
said, come on along.
So where do we meet?
That's great.
Where do we meet May 29 at noon? Where? Just at
On the
front
site.
gate?
At the site.
Do we need to, does that technically constitute a meeting if we all get together like that?
What I like to do is,
Not unless there's 8 of us.
to be on the safe side, I would just post.
All right.
Just in case there was 8.
Yeah. All right.
How many people want to go next week at noon?
I can.
I can.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Want to go, but I can't.
okay, no, that's all right. All right, so probably the 4 of
I don't think they'll
us.
have 8 of us.
All right, so it looks like 4 at least right now. Okay.
Right.
And the other comment I want to make is that the public forum is going to be a good summary. They do have financial numbers, which I'm not ready to present, but after that meeting, we should ask them to come back and talk to us.
Okay. Thank you, Kathy. Anyone else? Go around the room. Colin?
Got one brief thing, and it's actually the Recreation Commission. I'm going to hand it over to John right now. No, it's been posted, and that's just to let John know what's coming up for the Recreation Commission. That was really bad. Thanks, that's it.
Okay, we're good on liaisons. Now, goals and priorities for the next year. And to me, there's two flavors of these. There's the stuff we have to do on account of our charge and those 5 responsibilities we talked through. And over and above that, there's the other important things we want to focus on. So first, the stuff we got to do. I've taken a crack at organizing that by month, as shown. There's 2 slides broken out by month with key priorities shown for each month, with tentative meeting dates for each month. Now, these dates are for planning purposes only. They're going to evolve, but I trying to give folks as far ahead a glance as I can here. And this walks through all the good stuff we're going to focus on at each meeting. We're currently in May. You see the priorities listed there. Next month, we're going to finalize those liaison assignments, finalize our goals and key issues to monitor, recap our guidelines process and preview the process for this year. If applicable, take care of any line item transfers from last year. I'm not going to go through each month. There's a lot of detail here, but I'd ask everybody to take a look. If you have thoughts on, if you have questions, of course, reach out. If you have thoughts on the order of operations here, please let me know. Colin?
Are we going to have any line item transfers, Anthony? Did you get your package?
It's still too early. We're still looking at it, but we could. And we may even need the FinCom and the Select Board in early July if we can't get, if some numbers change between June 20th and the end of the year. So just, we're shooting for the 20th and the Select Board is shooting for the 17th, but there is that outside chance that I may say, hey, Eric, can we get a group for a quick meeting to do transfers? I'm hoping it's not happening, but after June 20th, but
Okay.
we'll see.
Okay.
Eric, just one thing. With your schedule here, if annual town meeting is going to be the first week of June, is there a possibility that some of the due dates could shift?
Definitely. I was just going to flag that. So this had a placeholder for town meeting in April with a note that it may fall to May, may fall even further into June per the update the moderator just shared. So like I said, this is going to evolve as the year gets underway. My goal is to keep this a living document and update it as things come into focus. If nothing else, just as a useful scheduling tool for folks with those meeting dates. But please take a look. Let me know if you have any feedback.
How far in advance do we post our agendas and put on the town calendar? For example, can we put the June and July FinCom meeting dates now on the town calendar?
June, July, and August?
Yep.
That'd be great. That'd be great. Just to get the date. We're not yet going to have the agendas up, but just to have the
No,
dates
just
on the
say
calendar.
dates,
Yeah.
and we can do the calendar invites, and we can have Laurie, we set up the Zoom information already, so, yeah.
That's great.
Do it a quarter at a time, maybe?
Anthony, can you send us calendar invitations too for
Yes,
these?
I was just saying that, yep, I'll do that for the first quarter.
Could you do the whole year? It's as tentative. It would be very helpful because I have other boards that meet and have a whole year's calendar.
Why don't we start? I think only because things are going to change, Kathy, and we're going to get into which one is the right one and what dates change and everything. Why don't we start with the quarters and see how those go?
Well, no, once we know the town meeting schedule, then maybe for the June meeting, you can readjust this schedule, and then we can extend out to the rest of the year.
I mean, my understanding, let's say, for example, he sends out October 10th, but as we get close, it changes to the 12th. He can just change it on everybody's calendar. I mean, you won't get two. It should be just a change. So,
all right.
whatever you guys want to do. I just have to have them so I'm around. Okay.
Okay. I see Peggy and Greg have their hands up. Peggy?
Yes, I would just comment that I think we should stick with our schedule, even if town meeting is until June. We have a schedule, March, April, May, that involves budgets provided by town staff, and I think we should just stick with that, even if, there's a little delay until town meeting.
Okay. Greg?
Yeah, quarter at a time.
Yeah, I was going to ask if, Anthony, is there a feed that we could subscribe to for the calendar rather than sending out individual invites?
No, we don't have that ability, like, to go to the website and do a drop down and drop that into, we don't have that.
Okay.
I'll look into something though for you, Greg.
Not a big deal, I just didn't know, because it does make it easier rather than you add every single person sometimes.
Well, I have everybody as a group, so I only click once and it's on the finance committee, so
Yeah.
no heavy lifting for me.
Okay.
Plus I have my administrative assistant do it
No
Okay.
heavy lifting, that's a good thing.
for now.
Yeah, I don't buy it.
Okay. Greg, you good? Okay.
Good.
All right, so your homework is, among other things, take a look at the schedule. Let me know your thoughts. Now, goals. Goals. So the schedule summarized the stuff we got to do on account of our responsibilities under the law. Goals for the next year. This is the other stuff, the other priorities we want to focus on. Recall last year we put together a list and tracked our progress against this list. That's included in the materials from our last meeting. We went through and gave ourselves grades on how we did. So this is looking ahead to the next year. What else do we want to focus on? I took a first crack, put some suggestions on this list, but it's open to the group's discussion. Tried to organize it a bit by category. We can run through it now, but again, I'd ask you as a homework assignment, take a look, give some thought to what you'd like to see on the list, what you'd like to see come off the list, other ideas. And we're going to check in on this at least once a quarter on how we're doing. Colin.
One thing we haven't talked about is whether we need to, what kind of involvement, if any, we should have with the Town Government Study Task Force that Carmen is running. Now, there will be some financial aspects of it, but it's really policy more so than anything else. And yet things like how much do clickers cost? Okay, that's a financial piece of it. I don't know if we need to have an official liaison there, maybe, yes. But there's some it's the one big committee that we really, that's going to be doing something that will have a deliverable that we're not involved in at this point. So it's an idea.
So are you suggesting we consider that as a liaison assignment?
I don't know. I don't know yet. Part of it is there anybody who wants to do it? That's always key. But the other part is just be aware that that we're supposed to be advising town meeting. Town meeting may be changing how it forms and how it reports and what it looks for. Do we need to add a component to that or not? It may just be a conversation.
I would
with
second
Carmen.
that. I think if they're adjusting town meeting, we would want to have some input.
How is that, financially impacting anything?
It's not, what she said, if they want to go electronic, there might be some expense.
I don't think we'd be the lead voice by any means. We're not a lead voice in that committee at all. We wouldn't have a major role, but some piece, I don't know.
A different suggestion might be for you to contact Carmen and just talk with her and say, Carmen, if there are some financial aspects that come up during that, we'd be happy to help you, or you could tell us what they are.
Okay. I think that's a good idea.
Or is there anything, or is there anything in the potential restructuring that would have an impact on how we operate? Not financial, but just how we operate.
So then are you suggesting that we get an update from her or somebody, on a quarterly basis or something?
Is that at the monthly chairs breakfast? Did they?
I'm sure it will be. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
sure it'll come up in
She
the
usually
monthly chairs
comes.
breakfast. So we could cover it that way.
Yeah.
We could ask her to, if something noteworthy happens or if something relevant to the finance committee happens, we could ask her to reach out. I don't think it rises to the level of a liaison assignment, to be honest, but I think it's a good idea to keep tabs on it.
I think it would be a good idea to, at least if there is a cost associated with any change, to have that readily available, because I could see at town meeting saying, you're not voting to do what I want you to do, but we spent all this money to do town meeting, I could see that could lead to a side discussion that, it would be good to have a response.
Okay. I'll take the action item to reach out to Carmen. Good idea.
Okay, my comment
Peggy.
is that we've had town meetings out of the White Fields, we've had them on Saturday, we've had them on 2 nights, we've had them in the gym, we've had them in 2 nights. That's never been a FinCom issue. I completely agree with our chair that it does not rise to the level of a FinCom liaison. It's certainly interesting, but it is not really what we're after.
Okay. Greg, are you good? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Kathy, and then we'll move on.
Greg, move your hand down.
No, thank you. That's what you're good. Thank you.
I have a musing on.
Fill up.
I have a musing on timing. If the town meeting is not going to be scheduled until the first week of June, our work is dependent on receiving budgets and drafts on a particular schedule. So, to Peggy, to your point of trying to stick to our schedule to be done by April, it really is going to be the schedule for the schools in the town, right? Is that
Exactly.
okay?
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, the schedule can flex. I think we all agree to that.
I have one new.
It's just the town meeting is just a date to me. I think all the other dates we should stick to and the town should stick to. I hope.
Something that hasn't been talked about here is what's going to happen with the Peabody School. I don't know of any committee, task force, or program, or thought process that's been going on, and as I understand, that's going to be coming into the town's aura, I guess, by October of next year. That has a definite financial impact. On the disposition of that school, the property, what's going to happen to it, and I don't know who's in charge. And Anthony, do you have any idea of how that's progressing or what role we should play with that? Because it's something I've been trying to watch. Recreation Commission is the only committee I know about that's even talked about it. They had a site walk, and they were saying, okay, we like these fields, let's try and keep the fields. Gym, I think it needs a lot of work. We may not want to keep the gym. So they're parsing it up at this point.
Yeah, so we've been, as a staff, looking at facilities and talking a little bit about that building, and we did tour it. Right now, the building sits with the school committee. It's under the school committee. So I would fully expect a warrant article next year that once the new school is open, that we'll see a warrant article that transfers the care, custody, control of that property from the school committee to the select board. So I think that there'll probably be more conversations to be had with that.
Okay.
With that property. And I don't think, well, with construction, I'd be surprised if we're on time with what the date is, so.
So why don't I'll propose that our school liaisons, tentatively Dee and Pat, keep that on the radar to take up
Great idea.
with the schools.
Thank you. Good.
Okay. Back to the goals list. The ideas I put down, these are informed by where we left the fiscal year 24 goals. Recall at that last meeting, we talked a bit about keeping moving with some things, adding some new things to the list. So maybe it would be helpful as you start to think about this to just quickly buzz through these. First, operations. This one is intended to just be a catch-all, hit the target dates and our milestones in the schedule. that I shared. And again, that's going to evolve, but I think it's worth calling out as a goal that we're going to hit those target dates, especially when it comes to the guidelines, the 5-year tax projection, getting the annual report out the door. Capital. We talked about this a lot last year, developing a unified long-term capital plan for both town and schools. Second, treating capital similarly across budget units. Recall last year, we spent a lot of time talking about the differences in how the budget units treat, especially Tier 1 capital.
Yeah.
The budget, and this is operating budget, the question of moving toward a unified budget, one budget for both the town and the schools.
Do we get
Where
to
did
talk
that
about
come
that?
up? How did that come up?
That was from last year's discussion that was,
We came up with one guideline.
Right.
but they were talking
You know,
about
we
having
didn't-
one budget.
We didn't want to be, we didn't want to be in the situation of having, why are they getting this and why?
I understand that, but I'm not sure, just because we did that, I'm not sure where this one
I think it
comes
needs
out.
more discussion.
Yeah, no, it does, and that's why I put it on the list.
Okay.
Let's finish the list, and then we can get back to that. Financial policies. We talked a bit about this towards the second half of the year. Anthony, you talked about a staff initiative to update and document financial policies, and to the extent the Finance Committee can help with that.
Yeah, so I'm going to be meeting with Kerry upon our return. It's a couple of things that we're going to be working on. One being the capital with the school. We're going to have a meeting with them. I spoke with the superintendent today, so we're going to have that soon. And the second part is the financial policies. You know, we had talked about them needing to be looked at. So I'm going to have a conversation with Kerry as far as how we're going to go about doing that. Is that something where it falls within the town manager and she develops it, and or is it something that we want to perhaps bring in a member of the FinCom and a member of the Select Board? Because the policies definitely need updating, and you know, it would, some of them, like with free cash, would kind of put us in a different situation this year, because I envision a free cash policy that would really make sure that we target certain areas. One being our general stabilization. We only have $4,000 in a general stabilization fund. And looking at our neighboring communities, we're way behind in that. Best practice is 3 months' worth of bills or a quarter of your budget, so we're way behind on that. Another thing is to maybe, when the free cash gets above a certain level, that we start planning and putting that into a capital stabilization fund. You know, you have some big projects coming forward in the coming years. One, you talked about streets and road improvements, and we talked about a public works facility, we talked about a public safety facility, and those are all millions of dollars, right? It's going to take us some years to get there, but it'd be really wise for the town to start planning for those. And I think you took a good step this year in not allocating the $1 million to reduce the levy, because it was really minimal, but because you still have these expenses. So I think a good policy like that will help make free cash maybe less available. Of course, you can always go against your policy, but it really has a better plan in how you're going to plan for the future of the town and not just look at what's in front of us right now.
Okay. Liaisons. There were several boards and committees in town that we flagged for attention in fiscal year 25, and those include Minuteman, 2229 Main Street, CPC. There are a few others as well on the list, and there could be more. And then communications. Continue the focus on communications that we kicked off last year with Dee as our liaison. And then collaborating with the Carlisle Finance Committee, especially when it comes to the high school, given we share the high school, and purposes of identifying best practices and cross-pollinating ideas between communities. Something to consider. Other thoughts on goals for the year?
Peggy, I would just say that, if we do think, God forbid, that we are going to be looking for overrides for regular operations in the coming years, coordinating with the Carlisle is incredibly important. Because if we vote an override, they're kind of stuck. And this all happened 20 years ago. So I think having someone, and I think it should be the chair, just coordinating and making a relationship with the Carlisle Finance Committee is super important right now.
Okay. Thank you, Peggy. I did meet with the incoming chair, James Cataccio, great guy.
Yep, you're all great. They all say they don't have any money.
We're going to stay in touch. And one idea we talked about was joint Concord Carlisle hearings for the high school.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
And that would, I know the school committee talks a lot about how thinly they're stretched with meetings. That would save them a couple of meetings in theory. So we thought it was an idea worth considering.
So we're going to have 20 people? We better get some more microphones.
But other ideas.
The Carlisle Finance Committee will tell you every day of the week that the voters will never vote the money, they don't have any money, et cetera, and they do end up voting it. But, they're pretty thinly stretched. It's a small town with limited resources, put it that way.
Okay. Kathy, then I think we'll move on.
Is there a place in the agenda to talk about where we ended up the last 2 years with the schools and how we're going to go forward?
Why don't we save that? I'm not trying to punt, but why don't we save that for we're going to recap the guideline process at our June meeting. That may be a better place to have that discussion, given the guideline was the driver there.
Okay, I'm just going to comment. It's still going down the same path again. And I just think that we need to think long and hard about the whole process. I don't want to end up a third year in a row in the same place.
Can you clarify what do you mean by it's going down the same path again?
Well, we work hours and hours and hours. You as the chair of guidelines, you're going to be mining all kinds of data. And we come up with a guideline. And we end up, people say, oh, they're picking on each other. It just, I said to Eric,
And we are going to spend time next month talking about what we can do better. I think there's a lot of questions we could be asking up front to inform our guidelines that maybe we haven't asked previously, and we want to get those on the table and have a discussion about what's all the information we need to be able to make the best, most informed decisions around guidelines. I think that we could do better. So we're going to have that discussion next month.
I'm hoping as a newbie that as a new person on this committee and one who's going to be, I hope, on the school committee, that I can ask some tough questions. I feel like I have no real relationship with the school committee. I certainly know some of the people there. I certainly know a lot of the issues there.
You mean you're going to be the liaison to the school committee, right?
Yes,
You're not running for school committee yet.
So the hope
I was going to,
is not
the
to
school
be-
committee?
Yeah, the hope is, no, I'm not on the school committee, but as a liaison for
just kidding.
schools. My hope is that if you've got tough questions that need to be asked, that you feel comfortable coming to D, and D's going to be part of it too. And we can try to get to some of the bottom of.
Yeah, and we're talking about goals here. So if a goal is to refresh the process, refresh the way we communicate with the school committee, whatever you're thinking, but let's put that on the list and talk about that in June when we align on the list of goals.
You know, maybe a slightly different way, in addition to what we're talking about, would be the big issue is we come up with a guideline, they might not agree with it, and all they do is bring in the masses who vote, and that's how it goes. And so that, it might be an interesting question to pose to this group that's looking at town meeting that Carmen is managing, and, you know, just to comment on how do we resolve, how can town meeting be a better, can be more effective in managing this kind of situation?
Dee, it comes down to, we're supposed to be giving fiscal responsibility to the town.
No, we are supposed to be advising them.
Okay, so we're supposed to be advising on
Right.
fiscal responsibility.
Right.
And the schools disagree with what we come up with, and it falls to town meeting. Okay.
All right.
I've said enough.
But yeah, let's move on, because we're going to have plenty of time to talk about the process starting next time. Greg?
Yeah, can I just say one thing on that, right, is everybody's correct. We're supposed to be the advisory. We do ask tough questions, so I don't think that's a problem. I think it comes off to a lot of people as us versus them, right? And yes, it's supposed to be sort of back and forth conversation, but at the end of the day, I think Peggy said it, right? We don't have to agree, and then that's what the town is to determine, right, where they want to go. And obviously, the town supports the schools very well, but like, we just don't want to get into that position where it seemed like a fight between the two committees. I have so many people who obviously know that I'm on the finance committee go, what is the finance committee's problem with the schools? And it's like, it's not a problem. Like, we're doing our job, trying to get, you know, town to spend less money, right? But it always comes off as, you know, as a, what's the proper term I'm looking for here? As just
As an adversarial situation.
Yeah.
Exactly, thank you. Yes, that's a great way to put it.
Okay.
Someone called us out at town meeting. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Quasi.
And then just
And then we're going to move on.
one
It's our
comment.
job. This is our job.
Yeah,
I think the goal would be to calm that how we're being looked at and make it like we're more working together. And just because they don't come to the guideline or we didn't get that, it still doesn't have to feel like that adversary, like we're against each other. We just have different views on where the town should be with the money, and that's going forward to the town to vote in town meeting.
Yep.
Yeah, I think so. I think we can.
Quasi.
Yeah, and then I think we talked about it. We can improve our communication with the school. But that at the end of the day, they don't care because they can go to the town meeting and they will get what they want.
Right. Right.
So I don't see how, you know, like how we change this. Yeah.
Yeah. Paul?
I just wanted to remind everybody that putting the responsibilities on the document right up front of saying, hey, this is what the financial committee is supposed to be doing is, and we all thought it was a good idea earlier in the meeting, it's still a good idea. And it could be just how you show that and how you communicate that can be looked at in the future of, you know, just reminding them that it's not us, it's them, that this is what you're doing.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. But the last thing I'll say about this is one of the things I want to do a better job at on behalf of the committee is communicating our schedule. I know last year there were issues with, because we all have tons of meetings between the finance committee, the school committee, the select board, everyone else. And we had some instances where folks just didn't show up to our meetings and it turned into, you know, they're intentionally ditching us and all this other stuff. So if we can help avoid that, I'd like to at least share our schedule. And that's why that schedule document I shared, to me, is so important. Because I've already been sharing draft versions of that with the school committee. and with the moderator and with other parties in town. And as we update it, I'll continue to do that. If nothing else, I'd like to think helps them join us when needed. Okay.
Are you also going to share it with the town manager?
Of course.
Okay.
I shared it with Anthony. I'll share the updates with Anthony and through him to the town manager. Okay, so your homework, and this is one of 3 homework assignments, and we'll recap those, is take a look at the goals, let me know your thoughts, what should we add, what should we take off. Our goal with the goals list is to finalize it at our June meeting. Back to our agenda, correspondence. Was there anything in the packet?
So what I included in the packet was your email from the chair's breakfast. I thought it's important that the public has an opportunity to see what members are doing. Not that you're deliberating behind the scenes, because you don't do that, but if there is something like that or some kind of correspondence from a resident, I think it's important to put there to be fully transparent. So that's what you have for this month. It's just your...
Okay, thank you. That's a great idea. Thanks for doing that. Minutes. So we have several sets of minutes from the last few months to take a final look at and approve. I got the chance to take a look, and what I'd like to propose is we table several of these, only because some of them need to be reworked, and I don't think we should take the time now going through each little edit that we identified. So I'd like to table the minutes with the intention of bringing them back once and for all in June to finalize and post. I'd like to table the minutes of March 21st, March 28th, April 25th, April 30th, and May 1st. They look good, they just needed some work, and I don't think we should spend the time now. That leaves the minutes of April 16th and April 29th.
So is this where I step in? Oh, okay.
For the 16th, I actually had no changes. They look good to go as drafted.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Fine.
Okay, and why don't we do this as one motion for the 2 sets of minutes? So we're good on the minutes for April 16th.
There's one correction that's necessary, and that's making sure we spell his name. Oh, no, never mind. We did spell your name correctly in the April 16th minutes. John, got it.
Okay. And then the other set that I think we can proceed on at this meeting is April 29th. And there again, I had no comments. Anybody else? Okay, would somebody like to make a motion to approve the minutes of April 16th and April 29th? Second? Second.
Can I,
Hold it,
can
I gotta
I
get this
say
down.
these split?
Go ahead.
What was that, Greg?
Can I ask that they be split, because I typically do not, I abstain from meeting minutes that I do not attend, since I don't know, and I haven't watched the video on the 16th, so can you just do 2 individual ones really quick?
Sure, let's do that again. So for April the 16th, do I have a motion to approve?
Approved as amended.
Okay, motion by Dee.
Wait. Approved as amended? April 16th, there are no
You
amendments.
didn't have...
There are no amendments on
There are
April
no
16th.
comments from anybody?
No. April 16th.
Approved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Kathy.
Thank you. I'm actually tracking who makes the motion, who makes the second, so I can put that in the minutes. That's why I'm getting that down. Okay, that's for April 16th. Okay. Any further discussion?
Any further discussion?
Okay, roll call. This is whether to approve April 16th minutes as presented in the packet. Peggy Briggs.
Yes.
Okay. Kathy Kukla.
Yes.
Eric.
Yes.
John.
Yes.
Pat.
Yes.
Greg.
Abstain.
Okay. Lindsay.
Abstain.
Dee.
Yes.
Carlin. Yes. Paul.
I abstain.
Kazi.
Yes?
Shri.
Abstain.
Lois is off. Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Any opposed? No. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Those are absent. So that's the 16th. Got it.
All set?
Approved as presented in the packet, yes.
Okay.
Got it.
Now for the April 29th minutes, do I have a motion to approve?
As is?
So moved.
As is, Kathy's moved
Okay.
it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Pat, any discussion?
Who seconded? Greg did?
Pat did.
Pat did? Okay.
Pat.
Okay.
Greg.
Okay.
No discussion? Okay, roll call.
Roll call. Peggy? This is for the
Yes.
29th. Yes. Kathy?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Lindsay?
Yes.
Dee?
Yes.
Carlin? Yes. Paul?
I abstain.
Kazi?
Yes.
Shri?
Abstained.
Okay. Any opposed? And we have a couple of absent, so we have 2 abstentions. So yes, it passes.
Okay, thank you. So those are the minutes, and after our June meeting, we'll be all caught up. We'll work through that little backlog we have. Recap of action items. So I've captured a few follow-ups for the group. First, for everybody, I'd ask you to take a look at the liaison assignments. We had a few that don't have any assignments. If you're interested, let me know. I'll follow up with folks just so we can get the list finalized. Likewise, take a look at that schedule, those 2 slides detailing the month-by-month schedule. Let me know if you have ideas on things that need to change, things to keep, things to delete. I want that to be a group document. And then lastly, the goals. Let me know if you have thoughts on goals for the year. We'll finalize that list at the June meeting. And that's for everybody. Minutes, a subset of us will get the minutes spruced up. That'll be Colin, Dawn, myself, Dee, we may loop you in. We'll get the minutes, the draft minutes finalized for our June meeting. Anthony, you said you'll get those placeholders on the calendar for the next quarter, just so we have the dates, and you'll look into the possibility of a feed or some other tool for getting the invites out.
Yeah, it'll be Tuesday, it won't be tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, no worries then. I'm going to reach out to Carmen about the town meeting task force, just to establish a line of communication on stuff that may be relevant for the finance committee. And those are the items I captured. Next meeting will be June 20th. We are considering experimenting with an earlier start time. We usually meet at 7 p.m. There's interest in moving that up to 6:30. Any concerns with trying that out at our June meeting?
Are we serving dinner?
Only if you bring it, Peggy.
I'll order pizza.
There you go.
I could bring donuts.
Let's plan to try it. We'll see how it works. The key is if we start early, we also have to end earlier. Otherwise, it's not worth it. So we'll give it a try.
My personal experience is in these kind of meetings, if you start earlier, you don't actually end earlier.
I know, that's why I said it, but we'll give it a try. We'll see how it goes.
Eric, is that going to go like for the full year then? Because, come school time and different things happen from June to September, that might become a little bit of an issue. Just me personally, I don't want to.
I know, I'm in the same boat, Greg. So yeah, let's give it a try, see what we think, and I hear you. And there's 15 of us, so it's tough to accommodate everybody, but we'll try it.
Doesn't half an hour make that much of a difference? I mean, you're going from 7 to 6:30. I'm just trying to understand, because I'm on the same boat as you and Greg. With the kids, it does make it a little bit challenging.
So currently we're 7 to 8:30.
Right.
Which is short for us.
Yeah. Short and sweet.
And you want to do 6:30?
Be 6:30 to 8.
Okay.
Okay. We'll try it. If it doesn't work, we'll figure it out. Okay. Adjournment.
Okay.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
You don't need to move for adjournment. You can just adjourn it.
We adjourn? Okay. We are adjourned at 8:25.
Woohoo!